Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Fantasy Football Fallout. This is where I watch every single play of every single game of every single week, trying to find you, the fantasy football studs, the stars, the budget players, the sleepers, everything that you need to really prime your team and fine-tune it, get that depth so that you can make the championship run. On this episode, I'm talking about the San Francisco 49ers drubbing of the Cincinnati Bengals. So let's just go ahead and dig right into the San Francisco 49ers. Obviously, Tevin Coleman was out this week, and I guess the question, the question was who was going to get the most of the snaps, most of the carries. Conventional wisdom would have said Matt Breida. I said last week, if anybody is a repeat listener here, I said that I liked Raheem Mostert, I guess, as the more explosive guy, and we did see him get into the end zone. Interestingly enough, they actually activated a guy off the practice squad, Wilson, who got 10 carries. He didn't get as much as Mostert or Breida did, but he got 10 carries. He got 2 of the touchdowns. So very, very interesting development there. I got to say, as a team rushing in game 2 for the 49ers, they looked better than the 49ers did in game 1. But, that could be a lot of different things. It could be the defenses that we were playing. I thought Cincinnati did a nice job against Seattle last week. They didn't do as great of a job against San Francisco this week. But Wilson's somebody you want to keep an eye out. Mostert, I think, is somebody you want to keep an eye out for. Breida did well. I think he averaged more than 10 yards a carry. You can't ask for much more than that, even though he didn't get in the end zone. At receiver, Deebo Samuel, now's the time to pop on him. If he's still available in your league, it's time to pick him up. He looks like he's ready to break out, and he had a great game against Cincinnati. And I think more importantly, the 49ers involved him a lot in the offense. He led the team in targets, or led all receivings, players with targets, even including Kittle, including all the running backs. 7 targets, I think 5 catches, if I'm not mistaken, and definitely got into the end zone. And he could have gotten in the end zone another 1 or 2 times, so that's very important. Garoppolo is continuing to look okay. I think he might have thrown a couple of passes that weren't the sharpest, weren't maybe the best decision, but hey, you can't really ask for, again, much more than a 41-point performance from your offense there, especially in week 2. Everybody was saying remember, this is only a couple weeks ago where Garoppolo was it looked really bad against Minnesota in the preseason. Well, it's a far cry from that, isn't it? So I think San Francisco, again, just to kind of sum up here, obviously Kittle's going to be gone. If you can get your hands on Deebo Samuel, now is the time. I still am curious to see what happens when Jalen Hurd gets integrated into this offense. I really, really like him for this offense going forward, but Marquise Goodwin looked good. Pettis I think Pettis he's reached his pinnacle in the last part of last season. He'll have some games, but to me, this is going to be Deebo Samuel's receiving core, and we're going to see, like I said, what Jalen Hurd has to say about that. And if we move it over to Cincinnati, the offense had a tough sledding. Concerningly, Joe Mixon, this is his 2nd straight game where he didn't get a lot of yards rushing. This is an offense that really wants to move the ball. And, Cincinnati has played 2 teams in a row from the NFC West that have really good defensive lines in Seattle and in San Francisco. San Francisco, people don't really think of them as having a super strong defensive line other than maybe, people in the NFC West and, of course, San Francisco fans. But they've really invested in that defensive line in the draft, added some really good pieces. They're getting and pushing the pocket with 4. They're getting pressure with 4. I got to say, if San Francisco, it would be very interesting if they, with Jalen Ramsey now throwing his tantrum and asking for a trade out of Jacksonville. I don't know that I would do it, but if you're the San Francisco 49ers, you're in a division with Seattle and with the Rams, and of course the passing attack of Arizona. If you add somebody like Jalen Ramsey to that defensive backfield that already has like Richard Sherman and they're improving, they're not only a team that should make the playoffs or give a really serious run to making the playoffs, but they're a team that could make a run within the playoffs and get further. So that would be an interesting thing. Again, I don't think it'll happen, but keep an eye out for something like that. That would be a big move. And we already saw Minkah Fitzpatrick get traded from Miami to Pittsburgh. Something like Jalen Ramsey moving along might be interesting. But anyway, back to Cincinnati. Mixon, he's got to do better. I think he will do better. The passing attack is okay. We're seeing Tyler Boyd. He got 10 targets, caught all of them. I did think he was going to be more integrated in this game plan. John Ross had his secondary targets still. I think, again, just to kind of reiterate what I said last week, I like John Ross, don't get me wrong, But when A.J. Green comes back, I think the composite of this offense changes, and I think Tyler Boyd is actually the best receiver to own throughout the entire season. And then, if you can stream, if you're lucky enough to stream both A.J. Green and John Ross, I think that's a winning proposition for you as well. We saw Tyler Eifert get into the end zone this week. He only had 9 yards receiving, but he was targeted a little bit more. If he's healthy and he's kind of, revving up his engines, he might be a factor. I'd say wait for now. Maybe if you're looking for daily fantasy play, that's a good one. And Andy Dalton, he's throwing okay, but it's Andy Dalton. I don't think you're going to want him as your fantasy football starter. He's a nice backup player, and he's a nice daily fantasy budget play as well, especially when A.J. Green comes back. So there you go. There's my fantasy football fallout. You might want to take a look out for Wilson in San Francisco's backfield, although when Tevin Coleman comes back, I think that really lessens his value. Deebo Samuel, now's the time to strike. And on the Cincinnati side, you got to wait for Mixon. You got to hold there. If you get an interesting trade offer, entertain it. But really, I think you're just waiting for John Ross, seeing if Eifert is that daily fantasy kind of guy for you. I wouldn't pop on him in your regular teams yet, and we'll see how it goes. So if you could, look, we're trying to grow this channel. We could really use your support. If you could subscribe to us, I'd really appreciate it. If you can watch some videos on our playlists, which I'll have in the upper right-hand corner over here, at the end of the video, we'd appreciate that too. I mean, we need watch time, we need subscribers. That's how we grow. So we could definitely use your support. If you comment, I personally will be interactive with you. I'm happy to answer any questions, or if you agree or disagree, I'm happy to comment and make this thing as interactive as I possibly can. So again, subscribe. There's going to be a red button on the lower right. There's also the logo of Underdog Podcasts in the upper left-hand side of your screen. Either one of those will take you to the subscription. We really need that. So we appreciate it. Check us out on another episode. Thank you.